when we fall in love, we protect what we love. So
Yes.
my prayer and my feeling of what's possible, and certainly the choice I'm making, is that our quantum leap is a love affair
Mm,
and is a communion of returning to the source and doing that in an embodied way, right here in these bodies, in this lifetime, in
mm,
these relationships, with all the things that I consider beautiful and amazing and safe, as well as those that I don't, right? Nothing gets othered in this paradigm. And boundaries are beautiful.
Hello and welcome to Emanate. I am your host, Quiver, and today we are with Gabriela Masala. Gabriela is a transformational artist, a dreamtime weaver, a wilderness tender, and a creative catalyst who's devoted to her family, community, and humanity. She's also gifted our listeners free access to her course, Love Based Paradigm, and you'll find the link in the show notes. Gabriela is also a dear sister in my life. We met back in 2011 through our mutual friend, Rhea, and when we first connected, she offered me a reading that opened a channel into my relationship with the dream world, one that I continue to deepen to this day. Being in Gabriela's presence is truly inspiring and nourishing, and I trust you will feel that in our conversation. Let's begin. Gabriela Masala, welcome. I'm so grateful to be with you this morning, and I'm so curious to hear, how are you arriving in this moment?
Mm, so grateful, delighted, really happy to be with you, one of my sweet cosmic travelers through the fascia and through the stars, and so earthy. I just love this place that we meet where our conversations cover so much territory and are so timely and relevant. So I come to you just surrendered and arriving grateful and
Mm,
curious.
mm, Amazing. Before we hit the recording button, you had shared that you had been already visiting someone this morning, and if you want to bring that in.
Sure. Yes. Well, it really started yesterday. And I do feel that these new moons and eclipses, these portals, the energetics are not linear. So it was already bubbling yesterday, this energy. And I visited a pond across the way. I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a very rural area where there's very few people and lots of wildlife, my greatest teachers. And as I was standing in the orchard of a Green Song property, our beautiful regenerative farm project across the street, I could hear this kind of like gurgling, gobbling kind of sound. And immediately I thought, oh, it's the turkeys. It's a flock of turkeys. They've been about everywhere on the hillsides. And friends and I started to walk towards what I call the frog pond. And frog is my medicine. Frog medicine has been my medicine since I was a tiny little girl. I just always had an affinity with frogs. I would say I am a frog. And through my life, I've had really profound experiences with frogs and love them so much. I love all animals and creatures so much. Um, Makes my heart go, ah. So yes, we were approaching the frog pond and the sound was getting louder and louder and louder, and we were looking for a flock of turkeys and there was none anywhere in sight. And as I approached the pond, the entire surface of the water was was black with little froggy eyes and bodies, like shoulder to shoulder little frogs singing this like incredible, ridiculously beautiful, awesome orchestra.
Oh my God.
And my whole body just got the chills. It was as though the vibrational pulse of the frog medicine just the song just washed through me, and it was amazing. I truly feel like that transmission was a gift, and as soon as they sensed us, they went underwater. And I was able to, while I was there, get some photos because who doesn't want to remember this moment? I walked around to the other side of the pond at one point and saw, maybe I'll send you this image to put with the podcast app. I saw this like huge, luminous flotilla of eggs, of frog eggs, and then a frog floating on top of it and another frog on top of it. And I mean, it was just the beauty and awe and miraculous, like the intelligence of the natural world, and what will be, I suppose, thousands of little tadpoles that will become pollywogs, that will become frogs. And yeah, it was a life changing moment. And this morning, as soon as I awoke, I felt the call to go and spend the eclipse in meditation and communion with the frogs. And so that's the moment that prepared me to be here with you today.
It's just so amazing. I was just watching this series on sacred geometry and the
Mm,
symbol for creation. That's the symbol, the glyph for the sun. That's the sphere with the dot in the center. When you sent me that image, I was like, that's the symbol for creation and the sun and all these
yes.
frog eggs.
Yeah, and then when you look at all of them together, they make like a flower of life. I love it. I too am just such a devotee to all of the ways that sacred geometry shows up. This divine matrix, from the fractals and the cauliflower to the starfish to the sunflower to, I mean, our own cells. Yeah, it's quite a miracle. It's quite a miracle. I actually love that quote. Um, of Einstein's, though any of us can make up our own version, that there's two ways to look at life: as if nothing is a miracle or as if everything is a miracle. And I definitely am the latter.
Well, it's so infectious getting to
Mm.
be with that ladder that is so clearly part of who you are. Everything's a miracle. And I thought, how beautiful the symbol of the sun, and you were visited, enveloped by your frog medicine in this portal of the eclipse, because this annular solar eclipse kind of looks like, the ring of fire around the sun. So that dark center.
Yes, and it's such a from all I've been studying, being a lover of many metaphysical arts, it's really a choice point. This moment for humanity, it's a choice point. All eclipses are doorways, endings and beginnings. And we have an opportunity to leap timelines and accelerate our evolution in the direction of where our attention is. And this is, again, ancient teaching, so relevant to the moment. Where are we placing our precious attention? Where is our focus? Where we place our attention, energy flows, and then reality unfolds. And so I really feel whenever this podcast goes live, it's always relevant to, make a choice, make a pivot about where you will focus your life's energy, especially at a time in our world where there is so much distraction and so much overwhelm for so many. If we can just really find that sweet spot of where our unique, thumbprint of the divine is
Yeah.
here to focus our energy. That's a true gift.
Beautiful. And in that essence, I'm curious, what is most alive for you in this season?
Mm. There's so many ways to answer that question. We're having a little tea party. Salud. I'd say first, aliveness is really alive for me in this season. Organic life. Um, I've always been a bit of a polymath. Like, I'm alive in a billion different ways. I have so many interests, so many passions, even creatively and professionally. And so, what's really living in me in this moment is that I feel the rest of my life is really about being an apprentice to the wild world, to lovingly turning the volume down on the human species and turning the volume up on telepathic communication, um, learning from the animals and the plants, being in communion with the elements, having as much time as possible in the sky temple, in the classroom of the great outdoors, and being both a devotee, an apprentice, a student that is able to receive and then circulate and then bring that back to the human world. Because I am human in part. And I love humanity. And I really feel that some of the greatest gifts that I can bring right now are to reminding us of our intimate connection with the more than human world to help us light up. Like, I truly feel that humanity hasn't quite arrived yet. That this whole idea of ascension is actually an opening to receive these ascended energies into the descension, into the body, right? Embodied divine love, embodied human divine matrix. What does that even mean? So, yeah, that's very juicy.
Mm,
Living a love based paradigm when the dominant paradigm is, entrenched in like fear and separation. You got to be a light.
mm,
How can you just stay so grounded and let that from the inside out emanate?
mm. Love-based paradigm. Can you say more about this?
Yes, I can. And I think the first thing I'll say is that you're going to include a class, the love based paradigm, in the liner notes. It's a gift for everyone who listens. I suggest you go to it. It's good medicine. It could easily take up our whole conversation. So I don't want to say too much about it other than we are love.
Mm,
Um, call it absolute truth or my experience. You go do your own experimenting, right? That I truly feel that we could have our attention focused in a lifetime on survival chemistry, on fight or flight, of being separate beings in a world of objects and separation, um, control, measurement, judgment. And while all of that exists in any human life, we can hold and nest it all, almost like Russian nesting dolls,
mm,
inside of the greater and prior unity and original blueprint of humanity and every other creation on this wild garden planet. Nest it in love, in unity, in wholeness, in energy. I'm very much a lover of the unified field by all names and no names and beyond names. The Tao that cannot be named is not the true Tao. And that's a place where, as a paradigm, as a worldview, we can learn to rest our attention, to
mm,
drink from that well, to
mhm.
have our roots there, to source there, um, to know that no matter what these crazy waves put us through, inside, outside, we are always held in love.
Mm,
A love that is not a sentiment. It's not, a feeling. It is the structural foundation of life, just like that flotilla of fish eggs that creates, this sacred geometry. I'm feeling my mind blown a lot these days.
Well, when I'm so, so grateful that I got to receive the love-based paradigm recording, that it's very generous of you to be offering this to the listeners. There is so much richness in this recording. So everyone listening, it's a gift. Thank you. Thank you for offering to us as this generosity of this love based paradigm. And I suppose for those who are still a little curious, like, okay, I want that. How could I access that in this very moment?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I'm 2 things. One is I wanna know what your highlights were, what your experiences of that, because I know you access it all the time. I know that's a dwelling place for you. So, what I wanna say is there's no bypassing before we get there, that the shadow is beautiful,
Mm,
that, grief and anger and rage and fear and depression and trauma and all of those energies, frequencies, they all exist within the love-based paradigm, that this is not an either or, it's a both and it's a place of like, what is the bigger, like Yemaya, the ocean goddess who receives all rivers. There is no wound she cannot heal. She
mm,
who is the ocean of love, of bliss, of consciousness, and that it's a dwelling place of attention and energy that everything can be brought into so that it's not a bypass, be positive all the time, be happy all the time, judge yourself if you're not, you know, living in the love-based paradigm of joy. No, no, no. It is about, it's medicinal
mm,
so that if I'm in a wave of grief and heartache, or if I am enraged and feeling so much judgment to my neighbor or to whomever else I place as an other, that I can remember that at a foundational level, all of us are of this same mysterious, creative life force energy. And that love it's a master frequency,
yeah.
right? It is a medicine and that it can be called on as intention. We can access it with our breath. So, one of the easiest ways to embody on a day to day, moment to moment level in the car, in the kitchen, with your kids, at work, at a protest, in the bank, wherever you are, is to slow down your breath, maybe even touch your heart. And we can do that now.
Mm,
Just the touch brings our attention. We can inhale, maybe a count of 5. Exhale, count to 5. If you can close your eyes, that's a bonus, but you don't have to. And then having the felt sense quality of gratitude, appreciation. Even in the moments where our nervous system could feel most dysregulated, if we can even just come back to the breath, come back to the body instead of, flight, flee, freeze, fight, and fawn.
mm,
Come back to the present moment, right? You know that's where it's at. And then to feel gratitude, feel appreciation, feel genuine care for
mhm,
anything inside and out. 3 minutes of that. Fast track to heart brain coherence, to the love based paradigm attention. And
yeah.
then, of course, there's a million practices and different ways to get there and stay there. And you were a master of each of that. So I'm going to flip it to you and ask you, like, what stood out to you? And what are some of the ways you stay anchored in a love based paradigm?
Wow, I just want to say in this moment just how beautiful it was to receive how this holding my heart and breathing with you. I am feeling this very palpable warmth in my heart. And that is how simple, like you said,
Mhm.
it can be this attunement. And so for me, it's that reminder and the busyness, being a mom of a little one and all the things. And that
Mhm.
overwhelm, I would say, is what can be my opportunity to
Mhm.
pause in all the things that can be in the outer, to just feel my pelvis, feel my breath, feel my
Mhm.
heart,
Mhm.
and that witnessing, like, in this very sweet way of to not judge if I'm not able to have all this time right now in this current season of my life to
Mhm.
do all these. internal practices, that it can be just what we just did.
It can be instant, yes, and, that's the thing about practice, right? That we practice so that in the moment when we need it the most, it's immediately accessible, right? So, it's not so it's practice is not an escape,
Yes.
practice
Yes.
is an embodied, intentional opportunity to then make our whole living state be able to access, right? So what I just heard you say, to echo and reflect, if I may, is that you have, a somatic experience, you return to your body, you feel this, like, luminous presence of your heart, which is different than keeping attention in the mind, which tends to be very busy. We could look at it too through the frame of brainwaves. Even in
Mhm.
just 3 minutes, you can shift from high beta, which is the mind of separation, the mind of anxiety, the mind of busyness. One of my teachers says, all rushing is insecurity.
Mm.
Whoa. We slow down. We circulate. I heard you saying you were circulating breath through your body. And I also heard self compassion. A choice, like you made a choice of, instead of judging myself, I should be doing more, or whatever the judgment de jour might be, you went into self compassion,
Mm.
which is one of David Hawkins, who's no longer alive, Dr. David Hawkins, did an amazing mapping of consciousness and calibrating frequency. And compassion is a very high state. Right,
Mhm.
and so we can apply that, like, and it's not hierarchical. The faster frequency, whether it's love, compassion, forgiveness, peace, joy, that these frequencies can be applied to those other ones within us because we're the full range of emotion,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I know for myself, like, I've can move through the whole range of fear, dread, grief, rage, whatever it may be, in any given day. But it's applying. It's for one thing, knowing the foundation is always love, and then applying through simple practices like pause, body, breath, loving kindness.
Mhm.
Right? This is nothing new. Sure does work.
But that chart you shared was so beautiful to see that when we emanate from that place where we're
Hmm.
in self-compassion, I can't remember all the words right now from David Hawkins' chart, but that is, I would say, that the main thing that I gleaned from listening to you and your partner Kimia's beautiful presentation of when the outer world can seem overwhelming and out of our hands. When we come into where we place our attention and the light and that frequency, and then when we emanate that out, that actually is the biggest service we can have for
Hmm.
our loved ones, ourselves, the land, the
Hmm.
world.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't like to fill people up with my experiences and beliefs. I say, go out and experiment, go out into the world and have your own unique awakening and your own unique direct experiencing, right? Because this is not conceptual. This is a direct experience. And yeah, and I believe that that chart, among other great work of Dr. David Hawkins, came from one of his books, about power and force. And you and I, in our Gene Keys explorations, have talked much about this too, the difference between the deep strength and the radiance that comes, from an embodied divine relaxation
Mm,
that is so different than the force.
mhm,
Um, the force and over efforting, and that's more of the energy of the paradigm of separation or Newtonian science, the current consensus dominant paradigm that's going down.
Exactly. And what I love about our sistership is how we have spelunked into these areas of shadow, whether it's through dream time or now we're having fun exploring the gene keys, which goes through the shadow to the gift. And that's what I loved
True.
too with the love-based paradigm. It's not separating a shadow, it's inviting it, looking at the
Mhm,
subconscious, looking at our unconscious. And so
mhm. Yes.
just wanting to hear about however you wanna share your relationship with dream time, since
Oh,
that's really where we started off.
that's where yeah, that was our first deep dive, wasn't it? Yes, I would love to riff on dream time together a little bit. And one of the doorways I wanna use right now is the central nervous system,
Mm,
the fascia and the interstitium. You know, like, even that in a world of separation where, say, there's dis-ease in some area and we have normalized like, well, just take it out, where it's like, hey, there's a place for Western medicine and I'm so grateful for it. And it saves many lives and I'm not dismissing it. And it too is lovable and I
mm,
appreciate it. And when we're looking at the whole system theory and when we're looking at the nervous system and all the different levels at which energy can be in the shadow, in the dark, stagnant, emotional, mental. Chinese medicine says that the origin point of all disease is stagnant qi,
mm,
right? And then I think about the work that you do and that I love so much in the nervous system with the body,
mm.
the communication systems through this like miraculous network of electromagnetic energy. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So there's so many entry points, and that for sure. Um, Whereas the nighttime dreaming, if we look at it from the Jungian perspective or even the indigenous perspective, is constantly revealing to us deep wisdom to come into greater wholeness, integration, aliveness, alignment.
Mhm,
And if we don't have a relationship to the unconscious, just like if we don't have a relationship to our nervous system, right? Do I even know when I'm dysregulated? Or do I just go into dissociation, numbing, or addiction of some kind, or
mhm,
control, right? Like we have to become aware
mhm,
before we can shed a light. And that just the light of our awareness alone is often enough to start transforming that. And so, in the same way, because I really want to be careful of not being Pollyanna or um, generalizing, right? So, have I had trauma in my life? Absolutely. Has it been among my greatest teachings to go through that and bring wisdom from wounding, medicine from from fragmentation, wholeness and restoration from fragmentation. So I do feel that whereas dream work is one way to do this and soma work is another way to do it, there's infinite ways of bringing fragmentation into wholeness. And there's a real gift that our dream work gives us because every night we sleep half of our lives. We're opening to these multidimensional, mysterious places in our psyches and our shared psyche that's revealing symbols, information, healing that is all galvanizing for our wholeness. And yeah, so I just share that from a place of to stabilize in a love-based paradigm, we need to do what one of my teachers used to call the work downstairs,
mm.
the work of clearing those survival and relational and unconscious wounds of being a human in a conditioned experience that for, I don't know, longer than I know how to count, we've been steeping in in this lie of separation. And there's been a lot of, so it's, it's also touching the ancestral and doing our lineage work and our family of origin work and our, like, how
Mhm.
do we optimize our relationships? And that this can be touched at every level, from the physical practices and our nervous system and our whatever it is, the power of creation and creativity. I mean, I'm tangenting, but all of this is the dreaming.
Mhm.
If we look at, there's the waking dream as well. And so, as an example, and then I'd love to pause and hear your how this all lands with you, that in some ways it seems that the consensus reality would kind of have us focus on whatever version of survival, getting our basic needs met, and, maybe having some version on our own terms of, like, the good life. Whereas the dreaming is like, wow, we are infinite creative beings. And every one of us is an artist, a poet, a singer, a dancer, a creator, um, a gardener. Like, how's your relationship to the living world? I used to live in Texas where 90% of the time people are indoors in their air-conditioned homes, right? It's like, are you getting yourself out to lay on the earth? So there's so many things in the Jungian perspective of the dreamland. My teacher, Arnie Mendel, who's no longer alive, would say that everything that is marginalized is the dream time.
Mm.
And everyone who doesn't have a voice in our limited consensus reality is a ghost role. And so, whether we're sleeping and listening to the images of our dreams and the feelings of our dreams and the guidance they're trying to give us every single night, many times a night, or we're just walking through the world and really feeling for anything that I engage in that magnetizes my energy, that I have a Velcro with, is for me. And it really shifts the perspective from, I am not a victim in a world of separation, but I'm a creator in a world of unity and wholeness. And I feel like that's a really important message for us right now. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. As you're sharing, I'm getting all these images of, through the fascia lens, when we have the
Mhm,
dams or the blocks or the parts of
mhm,
our body that's marginalized,
mm,
it's gonna start re eventually causing discomfort or pain.
mhm,
If we think, "Okay, my shoulder is separate from the rest of my body, and then my shoulder has to do extra work and force and push to make it through the day, and then it's just gonna eventually, over time, have impact." Until
mm,
we, like, bring that part and be like, "Oh, no, you are held within this entire beautiful living web,
mhm,
and you don't have to hold it all on your own."
mhm, mhm. Mache. Yeah, and you can circulate the
And
energy,
circulate it,
right?
yes.
Because I know for myself, when I've had, I just recently am recovering from a knee injury from
Mm,
crazy forest scaping on the slopes of the mountains here. And my goodness, yes, it was localized in the back of my knee, but even just after 24 hours of protecting it, my entire right side was tight. It threw my whole body out of alignment. And and that sense of, and it's so it's like it's very human, even as we look at the layers of how the physical, the emotional, the mental, the energetic, we can't separate those. There is no
mhm,
separation. And so that even, the feeling of heartache,
mm,
the feeling of, I'll use the example of like a betrayal, that kind of pain can really then shut down the heart. And
mhm,
over time, what does that become? You know, and then so how can we be aware, like, and I love, this conversation we've had so often, that the fascia is also the communication network of the interstitium of the waters of the body. And
Mm.
how are we structuring those waters? And so whether it's my shoulder that's frozen or my knee that's injured or my heart that's breaking, can I structure those waters with deep breath and calling in the frequency of divine love, whether it's through nama japa, the holy name, any name you want to use, or it's through laying on the earth, or it's through gratitude, or it's through, the movement of just like, let me breathe and circulate this energy, or it's through a torrent of tears as often as I need to have them, or like raging and using my voice really big. All of this is a circulation of energy, and this is part of that same piece of being a creator. It's part like you're creating your life. This is your masterpiece. Like this miraculous body. You're creating a baby right now, your second one. What? Right? And so energy's gotta circulate. It's gotta circulate. One of the beautiful laws I love, universal laws, energy cannot be destroyed or created. It could only be redistributed in the field. In what? The unified field. We are not separate. We are the interstitium, right? We are the waters traveling through the fascia of the cosmos.
Yes. Yes. That. And the circulation is life.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yes.
everything, like, back to that,
Yes.
like, first, the frog egg, right?
Mhm.
Everything's moving even if it looks like it may not be. There's
Mhm.
that pulsation.
Mhm. Yeah,
Cool.
vibration, frequency, life just living itself. Life upon life upon life upon life. Even after death,
Mhm.
right? I've really been getting these profound teachings. I've been walking with the angel of death for many years since my father died 4 years ago, May, and, have lost, 3 people, including him, who I was very close to, who are all mystics in their own way.
Mhm.
Lost both my dogs last spring, which was like epic heartbreak.
Mhm.
Um, and all of those beings who passed on, as well as many, many research narratives I've heard of people who have had near death experiences. This has really just been an amazing subject for me over the last many years. Everyone reports that it's just pure love and unconditional acceptance and like beauty beyond measure. And, like that life goes on and on and on, like beyond what we can even imagine. This is what my father came back and told me instantly and continues to. And I feel closer to my father than I ever have.
Mm.
His physical death was honestly in many ways only the beginning of our relationship.
Wow.
Because I have a relationship with him now beyond form that's not limited by human conditioning and pain and separation. And my dogs too, that, I miss their little bodies who were with me for 15 years. And yet now every single animal I see, whether it's a bird or the frogs or the deer or my neighbor's dogs, full unconditional love. Like I feel them everywhere.
Mm.
And so I've just really come to learn in my own humble experience. I'd love to hear yours that death is not the opposite of life. Death of the physical body perhaps is the opposite of the birth, and that the birth actually is just the entry out of mama. We come back to those little frog eggs. Well, yeah, how's that land for you? What's your experience, Em?
Well, that is really resonating. It's so beautiful, first, that you just shared your own personal journey the past 3 years. And I have to say I feel very blessed that I've been witness to the miracles. It's not even miracle, what's the word? It's the mystery. So there's not,
Mhm.
like, definitive answers.
Mhm.
What I know in my being because of being in ceremonies where we are communicating with ancestors. There is no doubt that I know that life continues, and I
Mhm.
feel very blessed. that
Oh,
I have that knowing in myself. And I
mhm,
feel like I was born with that knowing. It's fascinating to me. Like we all can come in our different lived experiences from before, and so the other side has always felt very much a part of this reality for me.
mhm,
Our ancestors, our whatever we want to call them, beings on the other side that are a part of our team, are very much
mhm,
with us. And
mhm.
so, yeah, this what you're
Absolutely.
describing,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and can we be curious about it? Because
Yeah.
that this sense of, you have to see it to believe it,
Mhm.
but you also really have to believe it to see it. You know, like, put out an extension, ask. Many
Yeah.
would say, like, the angelic or celestial realm, because of our free will zone, like, they can't intervene on our behalf unless we are willing to receive, unless we ask for support, show me a sign, divine intervention, come, communicate, to be open to that. And so back to that lie of separation and dominant paradigm. And if we are not open and if we do not believe that it is real and normal, natural, easeful to commune with the spirit realm, with the non form beings, whether it's believing that we're in a non animate world, you know, some people would listen to us talking about our telepathic communication with horses and with our ancestors, and they think we're like crazy. And yet for us, it's really natural and normal
Mhm.
and birthright, right? So we do need to, I think, be open to receiving this and then be patient enough to listen.
Hmm.
And I know for humans, myself included, I want to continue to expand my ability to be quiet and
Mhm.
listen and read the subtle
Mhm.
because it's not in the beta brainwave. It's not in the fast thinking mental, you
Mhm.
know, it's in a much
Mhm.
different frequency. And I've even started to play with this idea of, you know, the other side. Like there is no other side.
Mm.
We're in
Mhm.
we're in this like circle of life. There's only frequency. There's only
Mm.
frequency and energy. And there is form, you know, but we're these wavical beings where we have within our energy anatomy, we have matter, but matter is just really slow waves that are so slow that they appear as particle. But we also have really fast frequency waves that that are invisible. And so and yet they're everywhere. It's everywhere. So to really, you know, become and I think a lot of it is like the curiosity and the wonder of a
Mhm.
child. You said like I was born this way. And I wonder how many of us are and
Mhm.
how quick the forgetting starts. You know, like yeah, for me my source has always been the Wa. I feel like where I went to rest from being a tiny little girl, some part of me, thank you, thank you, thank you to all the challenges of life. Some part of me just stayed anchored to the divine, the mystery, the goddess, call it what you will, life force, the benevolence, the love, just rested there and knew, okay, this is my origin point. This is what I trust. This is where I will drink. And this is where I will orient to meet the world.
Mm.
But for many, many years, even though others reflected back to me like, there's something different happening in you that's not happening in me. But I don't think that's true. I think that other people were just shut down at a
Mm.
much earlier age. That doesn't exist. Your imaginary friends, the spirits visiting you in your dreams, the way that you can hear other people's and thoughts and feel their emotions, the way, you know, that isn't real. And then I wonder if we shut that down on ourselves. You
Mm.
know, I know for myself, I was kind of closeted for many, many years. I just understood at an early age, oh, all those experiences I have of speaking with spirits, of being natural mediumship, of being an empath, um, that's not welcome in these
Yeah.
conversations. And so
Mhm.
I kept it to myself, but it was always where I went to drink. And now I think that one of the greatest gifts we almost, have an opportunity, a choice point, right? Here it is again.
Mhm,
Like, will I be open to embracing the fullness of my capacities and my gifts and the subtle nature of all of the full spectrum of what a human life is offering us in every single moment? And how can we, and I feel we both do, and certainly in our own sistership, and then in everything we touch, that rippling network, we invite people like, come home to your whole self.
mhm,
Come home to your unique ability to see, to sense, to receive, to commune, to
mhm,
be in intimate love relationship with all of life, not just other humans and maybe your dog or cat.
mhm. Yes, beautiful. You started to touch on your childhood, and I was gonna ask if you wanted to share anything else of like, as that awe that you were born with, that wonder, where did you find yourself naturally drawn to? Like, what did you love to do as a little girl?
Mm. Here, let's make a little toast on that. Ashe.
Ashe.
Mm. My childhood. I think I've shared with you that my earliest memory was of being about 3 years old, 2.5 years old, at our beach house in Uruguay, South America. And I just can feel it so viscerally in my little tiny body looking up at a sky full of stars and just having the direct, clear cognition, um, telepathic, call it what you will, just the direct knowing I came from there.
Mm,
Now I'm here. I'm meant to be here. And like it's all gonna be okay, you know? It's all like just this like full understanding of like it's all good. Almost if I had to explain it now, though I obviously didn't understand it then in any kind of words, just a direct knowing of that there would be infinite wisdom, support, guidance, love given for the journey. And it was all good. What I could do was relax into it, but like, don't forget your origins, you
mhm.
know? And I even think that's a beautiful inquiry question for everyone listening to take. Like, what's your origin? What is your origin? And how can you continue to drink from that place? Like the Maha placenta. I'm feeling your pregnancy vibes, Em. Um, so, I feel like by nature, I've always had a really huge propensity for awe and beauty and happiness and love and magic and trust in God, Goddess, the divine wholeness. Like that just by grace, that's always been a really clear, non-negotiable anchor. And in my childhood, I did, I was born the year that the coups happened in Uruguay, South America. So the military took over the government. Can anyone relate? Uh, Tyranny, abuse, murder, um, the disappeared ones, for anyone that has some history, this happened all over the South America, from Bolivia to Argentina to Peru to Chile to Uruguay. And my parents were liberals. And so they were in the little black book of everyone who should not be allowed to live. And my father was, it was my mother who was under the age of 30 with 3 children under the age of 5 was being followed by the military police
Oh my
on the
gosh.
daily, coming to our door looking for my father, who over these 3 years until we finally were given asylum, a visa, the visa that now is trying to be, like, canceled.
Oh
That's
my
how I came to be in the States. So what's happening in the United States right now, it's Pluto return, is very relevant. I've lived through it, you
mm,
know? And I absorbed a lot of trauma. And so something about that, and I'm using my thumb for those of us that aren't looking like my thumbprint. I believe that each of us has like that unique pattern of what is ours to learn, and that somehow life is happening for us, and that everything that happens is part of our soul's prescription for all growth. And so that early trauma of what I witnessed and absorbed, I feel like somehow set the stage for my choice point.
Mm.
And am I going to choose love and wholeness and unity and healing and magic? And no matter what, even when I'm surrounded as a young child, my parents' nervous system's loaded with fear, survival, protecting their children, the devastation of seeing their democracy destroyed. For
Yeah.
13 years, there was military rule, the having to leave the extended family and
Mm.
just mother, father, and 3 little girls, I was 3 at the time, who didn't speak a lick of English, brought to Queens, New York to reroute. So this whole moment in the U.S. history is very personal to me, and I feel like one of the gifts that I can give back, um, playing it forward for anyone who is struggling, who is traumatized, is to remind them of their origin,
Mm.
and that what got me through that is love.
Mm.
A love bigger than my mother and father. Bless them, they were doing the best that they could, and they loved me as much as they were able. And the nervous system of the natural world, which I was
Mhm.
always like you, so, enamored by, in love with the sky, in love with like just spinning on the green grass and looking up at the sky and flopping and just merging into the
Mhm.
sacred geometry of this wild and crazy life, and knowing that I'm always held there in love, in support. Yeah, so that's like my attention went there and
Mm.
continues to go there. And that's available for everyone, no matter what you're facing, no matter where you are. And I know that at this point in my life, I have the luxury and the privilege of living in the wild world and having a pace of life that is not only sane, but life giving.
Mm.
But anyone can choose that. And anyone can go outside and put their bare feet on the earth and connect to the sky and lift up a prayer or a song. Um, and I really hope that everyone can find their unique way of moving through whatever challenges and traumas and heartaches and heartbreaks are also very real in our world right now.
Mm. Wow. I feel so honored that you just shared this depth.
Did you know that about me, Em?
I did not. It just, my heart is swelling with even more love,
Mm,
knowing that you've gone through that. And like you said, the relevancy, it's how relevant it is for this moment. And so
mm,
for anyone listening, just for that to be the medicine of this choice. Because I
mm,
wondered that. I wondered, like, what makes it so some people like yourself that are faced with such hardships can still choose love while others may not know how or forget,
mhm,
you know?
mhm.
And
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, I forget 1,000 times a day. What's that like? That's the practice of remembrance, right? We forget and then we return. Though I will say, like, maybe in my top 5 of fast tracks to returning to love is learn how to attune to your nervous system,
Mm.
and learn how to co regulate to that which brings you back into a state of stasis, of wholeness, of harmony, of regulation, of ease.
Yeah.
And we're full circle back to the beginning. Heartbreak, coherence, breath. Lay on the earth, put your spine up against a tree, hug your dog, hug yourself, hug your person, like co-regulation, attunement.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And hearing even in in this moment of to not judge when we forget,
Right,
right?
because the moment we judge, we're right back into the mind of separation.
That's that beta wavelength. And when we're
Yeah,
in
and
that,
so
right?
totally, and I think that this is such a juicy conversation that I don't know that we ever talked about anything but beta. So there's beta, right? We're learning, we're taking information in. There's high beta, we're in stress, we're moving too fast, we're anxious. There's alpha,
Mm,
creativity, a little slower, the sense of flow state is more alpha. There's delta, which is deep sleep. There's theta, which is the most programmable waves. And for those of us who don't know, when I first learned, it blew my mind that as little ones, we're in theta for like the first 7 years of our lives. We're just being programmed. Ah! So, as a mama, you're so intentional. Of course, I did my best with my 20-year-old. But you're at a point right now where all of your amazing wisdom and awareness that you can bring that into little Finn's life and into your
mm,
new little water baby that will soon be with us in a way of just like being super conscious about attuning to a young child, including our own inner children that never got to get
mm,
attuned to. We can do that now, right? It's
mhm,
retroactive, it's not linear, but really attuning in a way where we can be conscious and loving about what we're offering them in those theta brainwaves. Yeah, because they're just taking it on. I guess this is what the world is, and to really invite a child to stay in alpha as much as possible. And then there's gamma. Go gamma. And gamma is like it's the frequency of the sacred geometry itself. It's the frequency that is beyond what we understand as real in this world. It's the frequency of spontaneous remissions,
mm,
right? Of ecstatic experiences, of psychedelics, of the orgasm that fractals us out, and we receive a wash of love that's beyond the beyond. That's gamma.
mhm.
Brain waves. What is
And
this thing?
I love this topic so much because I had heard from this amazing elder midwife, Wapio, who was teaching about the altered states and the brain waves. And she was sharing that gamma is
Yeah.
also what we experience when the DMT releases with birth and with death. These different expansive experiences.
Yes, yes, and what I wanna say to that, is why wait until we give birth or die? Because this is our pineal gland. These are the natural excretions of our frickin' brilliant glandular system, and when we pay attention to that pineal gland and we bring attention to it and we just rest in it and unfold into it, it will start to excrete that biochemistry. And then, right, the apesio crystals, like we're back to the interstitium. Then we're sending out and we're receiving and we're just an antenna. And I feel like I'm a novice, right? I'm a novice at all this, but wow, I'm so grateful I know that I can line up and pay attention there.
Yeah. I love this topic so much. I'm like, the pineal gland and then the circulation. We've been talking about the circulation of energy. And so our cerebral spinal fluid, when we start to
Mm,
move with our
mm,
nature and we are in these other wavelengths, and then that flows up and down our spine, circulating through these amazing ventricles in our brain, making vortices. And then that's what circulates during dream time. And so then the excretion of the pineal that I've heard too is called soma, which is this divine nectar.
mhm,
So
mhm.
yes, I
Fruit
love that. Like,
basket.
why wait till we are born again or dying to have access to these states?
Yeah, yeah, and also wow, you don't need psychedelics, but sometimes they can help open a door so that we remember,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and in that realm, I'm all about organic life. So like Mushroom Nation, not just psilocybin, but mushrooms like ancient life forms. You know, that whether you're having mushroom in your morning drink in a little powder form or you microdose or whatever it is, but like really having um, an opportunity to remember what
Mhm.
so many humans have forgotten. And all that we're talking about right now, dreamland, marginalized, you know, tell me like any mainstream conversation that you can have with someone where they're going to be able to track with you. And let's change that too. That's part of my greatest wish for humanity is that what we're talking about becomes normalized, access to everyone.
Yeah. Yes. Accessible, available, repeatable. It's just here right now. That's why I think of like when people hear this, if they're in an urban setting, if they may be like, well, I don't have access to natural beauty. And I love when you're like, you can just go and connect to the earth underneath your feet and the sky, no matter where we are.
Yeah, and also to your houseplants. I mean, I have a love affair with my houseplants. You know, I love them.
There's a beautiful one behind you.
Yeah, it's a big old jade. So I'm not pretending that
Mm,
that is easy,
mhm,
though I do feel that over time, like I would recommend to anyone, like know your values, you know, because who chose to live in that urban center? And is that lighting you up? And is that where your passion and your joy and your life and what you value resides? Then that's the place to be, you
yeah.
know? Um, and just to know that we're never stuck. We're never stuck. We're evolutionary beings. And I feel like in my long 55 years and also blink of an eye 55 years, I've had so many lifetimes in this one. So many. And so I really just want to encourage anyone who's listening, and especially if it sounds like, well, they can have that, but I can't. I
Mhm,
would say, you know what? You are a master creator. You have your unique life journey right here, right now. And you're never a victim of that. And you're
mhm,
never stuck. And the divine wakes up in each of us uniquely,
mhm, mhm.
and it's always available.
Yes. Yes. I'm curious, what would you say in this moment or like this season is your current go-to practices for you
Mhm.
to come back to your
Mm.
aliveness and center and
Mhm.
remembering?
Mhm. For sure, breath.
Mm,
Pause, breath. The older I get, the simpler it is. And the more I practice, the more simple it becomes. Um, the natural world. Get outside. Sometimes it's, you know, it is lay on the earth and no mind and let her hold me.
mhm,
And other times it's creativity in like any expression and to hold like because I can as an example, you know, there's the things that we have to do. I'll use the example of like feeding our family, making meals, nourishing ourselves and others, especially as mamas. Um, but how can that become a ceremony?
mhm,
How can that become an art? How can that be a sacred craft? And that anytime that my attention, whatever it is, whether it's to cleaning my house or cooking for my family or going on a road trip, like even there in the most seemingly mundane things, it's about where I'm resting my attention, you know, and what can I do to make it fun?
mm,
Because I mean, what is life for if to not be fully alive in our joy? You know, there's enough suffering in the world. Why? be miserable while we have to do the mundanity, and I went through a journey of this in my early years as a mama where I just felt like, why do I live in a world where so many logistics and so many tasks? Like, I just want to go sing and dance and pray and meditate and make art, right? And then there's this integration of like, this life is the art, it is the studio, it is the opportunity, it is the ceremony. And it's
Mhm.
all about where I'm resting my attention. So these days, even though I love, a good morning practice sets the tone. And some days it's 5 minutes and other days it's hours. But it always starts with before I even open my eyes to harvest my dream time. What dreams were shown and given, what information has come, what am I feeling? And then from there, it moves into gratitude. Gratitude, like, hello, bright new day, to like presence with the miracle of another day of life and to flood my nervous system with gratitude. Meditation, prayer.
Mm.
Sometimes it's a theta meditation that I've made because making meditations for ourselves in our own voice with our own values and our own um, details of what we are growing into is amazing to listen to right before bed, first thing in the morning when our brain waves are most programmable. So I love a good theta at bedtime as well as in the morning. I also love just like dropping into the silence
Mhm.
and like having as much space between sleeping and waking and getting up to the day where there's no thought and there's
Mhm.
just like blackness, silence, stillness. And hydration. I have this drink I love. It's so simple, but I love it. Well water, filtered water, good quality water, um, apple cider vinegar, blue spirulina, a touch of stevia, a little pinch of sea salt, hydrate.
Yum.
Love it. It's electric blue. It's so pretty. Yeah, hydrate. And my morning tea ritual is a beautiful part of how I set the tone for my day. And listening, ideally then what follows within the first hour is some gentle movement like qigong or vibrating or undulating, just getting into the body and getting first light, right?
Mm.
Outside if possible, if not too cold or too rainy, bare feet if possible. But even like the light through a beautiful window and presencing with the natural world. So those are all, if I can do that, and there's days where, I'm on an airplane by 6 a.m or I'm at my mother's house supporting her and there's a whole different focus. So it's doing it enough, those and it sets the tone for my day. And maybe I lift up a prayer out loud and maybe I sing a song, maybe I write in my journal. It's unique to the moment. And I think that's part of the beauty of supporting our people, our students, our clients, um, to find their own way and that know that practices change over time and that just do what works.
Mm.
Right? Do
Mhm.
what works. And what does it mean that it works? That it drops me into a deeper state of I welcome the day in gratitude and love. I surrender to something greater than me. One of my ongoing prayers is something to the tone of great mystery. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm.
Please guide me today. Please use my voice. Please guide my actions. Please let me be served in the service of this life and let me surrender into the highest possibility of what can unfold today.
Mm.
Right? So it's simple, 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 simple.
I love that prayer. Let me be served in the service of life. That just so, especially for women, like,
It's a good one for mamas.
can we fill ourselves
Yeah,
up? And
yeah.
just so beautiful hearing you share creating all these choice points along the day of making life as art. And
Mm,
so just how that shifts the quality and just you're reminding me of I heard once of this book called After Ecstasy, The Laundry. And then
Right.
I was like, "Well, what about ecstasy and the laundry?" And just started
Yes,
having
yes,
fun folding, like, can this
yes.
be a sensual
100%. Yeah,
act?
yeah, and I think this is part of the evolution, and, that book, bless him, John Kabat-Zinn, he's a man,
Okay.
compartmentalized. Masculine energy tends to compartmentalize,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and steeping in the mind of separation. You know what? Ecstasy and bliss and oneness and wholeness and meditation are not on the cushion a half hour or an hour a day.
Mm,
Like, if you can't bring that into your daily life, like, how sweet is the fruit of your meditation? And I do feel like it is the feminine. It's the feminine, spirit of wholeness and oneness and unity and inclusion. She naturally, and I say she, and I mean like the great Wa goddess, the great mother living us all. She knows how to bring that
mm,
eros into every single moment.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yes, that aliveness. You'd mentioned too of the importance of pivoting back to clients or other people you work with on how they can come up with their own ways, all of these
Mhm.
simple ways that are their own practices. And so on that note, just anything you want to share about the work you offer for individuals with your transformational sessions or mentorship courses.
Oh, it's so juicy.
And
I just wanna keep talking with you about all these other topics.
oh, we can.
Well, I'm just
We
saying.
can.
Yeah, and this is beautiful. I love to work with clients. I mean, honestly, I've been reading tarot and working as a professional transformational guide and empath and medium since I was a teenager. And how that evolution from like full spectrum art therapist, movement dance therapist, um, energy medicine in a million different ways, uh, so much. Like, I love the whole world of transpersonal psychologies. And so there's many different ways that um, the gifts that have been cultivated through me come together with each client, right? And including Nine Star Key, which I think is also a gift we're giving your listeners. Nine Star Key is kind of the Taoist lens of five element energetics. That's almost like an Asian style astrology of our earth qualities. And that's another lens that I use to support people in knowing what cycles they're in and what their unique love song is in the elemental expression. It's always nature based. And I see clients virtually, and I also see clients one on one. And I'm in the process of building facility and structure so that folks can come to retreat in the Blue Ridge Mountains, to dip in for a day, for several days, and then we can actually be out on the earth, in the ceremony and the song and the dance and the rhythm and in the deep steep of the wild world. And yet, thank goddess for virtual Zoom rooms. And wow, the power of what can happen there. And so, really, transformational sessions are unique to each being. They're always going to include soul to soul communion. I find that people show up in my field, and I don't do any marketing or promotion. I'm not on social media channels at all, with the exception of little drops of nectar that I may start putting on YouTube, like these classes you'll share. But people show up in my field when they're ready to make a leap,
Mm,
when they're ready to clear something that, like some itch, whether it's of a healing or a reaching for some greater life they know is possible, like an itch that nothing else has been able to scratch.
mm,
And that's when they show up. And often, mostly it's women, though eventually they will often bring their men for couples work or even family work. And usually it's women who already know that they are on a path, that their life is calling them to something greater, to something next, to a big leap in their healing, clearing, consciousness, creation. and they need an expansion guide at their side, a transformational guide, someone who can hold really infinite space for the whole of their majesty, for the depths of their pain, for the integration of all of it, and to have them be able to turn back in and come home to themselves and find the ability to bring that forward in their lives. So I love to teach a woman to fish, right? I'm really all about returning people home to the wholeness, the divinity, the power of what has always been living them, and for them to, as you said so beautifully, to be able to practically, to in a practical, consistent, repeatable way, access their higher self as their own inner guide, their inner knower, their inner healer, and to be able to harvest a sacred life on their own terms, to
Hmm.
come into their full creatorship. I have a knack for supporting people to do that.
That and so, of course, we'll have your information in the show notes for anyone that is feeling that call and resonance and continuing to trust, because I feel that same way with my practice. I'm like, when it's the right timing.
Oh, yeah, and I'm remembering a series of sessions you gave yourself for your birthday, maybe I wanna say, last year.
Yeah.
I witnessed you quantum leap.
Oh my gosh, that was
What?
powerful. I mean, talk about transformational. That was my higher self guiding me. I was like, okay, I want to work with you in this deeper way,
Mhm.
and you
Yeah.
have such a beautiful way, Gabriella, of communicating your love paradigm, embodied genius that is you. Have
It is
such
you. I wanna
It
say
is
that is
us.
you, and that is all of us.
But there really is a way that working with you, and for those listening that are like, "Is this from me?" And listen to your higher self, and then, and know that, like, when it's that timing, the the arrangement of words and the vibration that's behind the words, how they landed, not only into my conscious awareness, but in my dream time. And then in my
Mhm.
later, they're almost data clumps of information that slowly start to make more sense and make more connections later on.
Mm.
That is this really potent medicine that
Beautiful,
continues to
beautiful.
integrate. So,
Music to my ears. Yes, yes, and I'll say to that note that so often I know it was true for me, and where my work with clients took a turn was when I reached a point. I think I was in my, I don't know, I want to say in my late 30s, where no matter what I had done, and I have done so much and loved it all, transformation and evolution has been at the forefront of my professional life since I was 11. And
amazing.
and there was just some places I couldn't get to. And so what I came to understand through following my higher self and praying and asking for what I most needed to integrate these places that had been dissociated, that were in the unconscious. We're back to that conversation of in the dreaming. Usually in those first 5 years and beyond, um, even gestationally, we imprint, and sometimes we imprint patterns that aren't even ours for generations and generations, but
Mm.
somehow we're gonna bring through into healing. We imprint in those first 5 years, usually in that theta programmable time. We have some core wounds,
Yeah.
that would diminish us, that would keep us, our nervous system adaptations and maladaptations. Like a really simple example that many people who've been through the journey can relate to is that there may be like something you really want to go and experience and do and feel and have mastery in, and like a big go for it in your life, whatever it might be. There might be an unconscious maladaptive pattern in the nervous system that is trying to keep you safe,
Mhm.
may not let you touch the thing you most want to focus on. And so that's just one example. And it can show up relationally. I've worked with women who have just felt like, why am I not attracting my mate? Why do I keep being in relationships where there's abuse or dysfunction? And so we'll do a season or two of work together and they will meet their conscious equal partnership. And the wounding of whatever that safety or pattern or maladaptation is gone, right? So I love to work in the unconscious. I love to work with the superconscious, the part of each of us that is our higher self, that is the unified, loving intelligence and intelligent love, that when we get it online, can guide our lives, can go into our own unconscious and redistribute the energy so that the pain, the resistances, the blocks, the nervous system, like our nervous system's just trying to protect us and yet, there's that classic quote that I'm gonna misquote just a little bit, that the very things that we learn to do to survive as children, we have to learn to undo so that we can thrive as adults,
Wow.
right? So there's a lot of undoing, and I've
Yeah.
become really, a humble teacher of I'll say, a humble student of the teacher that is the field that is always communicating information, of
Mhm.
helping people to walk through their unconscious blocks so that they can bring them to consciousness and that then the block becomes the medicine and the awareness takes them forward into repatterning. So a good deal of what I do early on with clients is rewiring and repatterning. It's energy medicine, but it is somatic.
Mhm.
And then over time, often clients will want to become mentees and they want a mentorship and like, hey, how can I light up my unique magic to go do my work in the world? Whether it's as several of my clients, they're artists, they're activists and leaders. They work across the board and from like BIPOC groundedness of bringing more unity to the human wounds to lots of mamas and educators and people who then go on to become practitioners or already are that bring the gifts that I've been grateful and blessed enough to bring together into a treasure trove. They
Mhm.
can go out and use it in their own ways.
And so you mentioned quantum leaps, and with this time we're in, this portal of on the way to 2027, which has been, in the Gene Keys world known as this great change, this quantum leap in humanity. And I'm
Mhm.
curious for you, like, what are you sensing is your own quantum leap? And then also for humanities in this moment.
Mm, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. So in the nine star key in numerology, we've entered a 1 year, which is the water, return to the source. And the water is the mystery, it is the unknown, it is the quantum, it is the unified field, it is the one energy. And that makes it more accessible to all of us. I think that by, 1,000 and more different perspectives and pathways from the indigenous prophecies to uh, ancient wisdom teachings, we have a sense of this evolutionary moment for humanity. And it is a choice moment, and not everyone will choose unity. And that's okay, you know, that the unified heart of love can also hold a space for whatever mystery, like we don't know a soul's journey as much as we can attune and listen and be empathic and read the subtle, right? Of course, we can read the field. And I believe that this is part of the shift that's becoming possible. And it's really interesting that at the same time that like all this Aquarian energy is like blowing up technology and digital communication and so much screen time and AI and ChatGPT and artificial intelligence out the wazoo. Like at the same time that that's happening, like this organic intelligence is also expanding. and lighting up. And what I hope and pray and wish and what I experience in myself is that all of my clairs are coming online with greater awareness, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognition, clairaudience, that the ability to see the field beyond the human eyes, to see is really expanding. Um, I feel great potential for us to make that quantum leap into a critical mass of a love-based reality, of a world that is more, I want to say, harmonious, inclusive, that is really holding the council of all beings at the circle of life rather than the hierarchical, where we're able to, a massive collective healing and clearing of the traumas of so many years and years and years that humans have been holding in our bodies. Like our bodies are no different than the earth body. You know this, right? You know everything I'm talking about. You live it. So deep love and care for the earth, deep love and reverence. When we fall in love, we protect what we love. So my prayer and my feeling of what's possible, and certainly the choice I'm making, is that our quantum leap is a love affair
Mm.
and is a communion of returning to the source and doing that in an embodied way, right here in these bodies, in this lifetime, in these relationships, with all the things that I consider beautiful and amazing and safe, as well as those that I don't, right? Nothing gets othered in this paradigm. And boundaries are beautiful. I mean, how about you? What do you sense is happening? Em, what's your feeling of the quantum leap for you and the quantum leap for humanity?
Oh, wow. I just feel so expanded being with you in this moment. And to me, it's both, boundaries are beautiful. It's like my heart expanding and I'm rooting down. I am a sovereign being that is connected to you and all this life around. And that to me is this quantum leap in my personal being as I'm growing another being inside me right now of this both and. I am a self that is part of the whole. I am a whole self and all these previous perceived parts that I have thought are separate are not. And yet the beauty of coming more and more and more into my soul self or higher self, because I wanted to make a little note on that for those listening that don't know, like, what do you mean higher self? And that's what I'm so delighted is to be, not that there's a hierarchy, but
Mhm,
that I'm in this alignment with my fascia, with
mhm,
my
mhm.
light. As we've been talking, I've been really seeing my inner sight of where we are shining, like they're flashlights. They could be a beam or it can be a diffuse light. And for me personally, this call of the love-based paradigm and this quantum leap of this choice point that we are in, that all the astrology is sharing, that this is unlike
Yes.
any time that we're in. And so what I'm choosing is to be in that seat of co-creating with the awe, with the mystery,
Mhm,
with my light, with my
mhm,
light of awareness, with my light of curiosity, with my light of wonder, and through that, rippling it into the field.
you do
And
that so
then,
beautifully, Em.
and that's what this podcast is for.
Ready,
My
done,
prayer is that
emanate.
to emanate and to inspire and making it available. And so then I see what's happening for humanity on a greater collective level is these waves coming in, these waves that are coming in from the cosmos that are here to support us. we had 3-eye Atlas coming by, and now it's going by Jupiter in March 19th. That's bringing in waves of consciousness to support our remembering if we are choosing to. And I'm seeing the waters inside the earth coming and bubbling up and releasing memory and codes, even from the glaciers melting. I could look at it as like, oh my gosh, we're in absolute this moment of chaos and destruction, which is true. And it's also a birth. And so by being in this
Mhm.
moment of
Mhm.
um creating life inside my body is there's this I just have hope. And it's not what I mean by the hope, it's like it is such a grounded. I just love how I am maturing into this hope of trust in the greater picture.
Ashe.
That's
Mhm.
it. And so I
Beautiful.
may not see it in my lifetime, the
Oh, I hope you
continued.
do. Yes, let's see it in this lifetime. And
We'll see it in this
you know,
lifetime. Yeah.
we're seeing it in our lifetime, right?
Yes.
With all due honor and respect, like, we do not live in the middle of a war-torn country that is in famine, that is and there is that, like, the bodhisattva prayer, like, until all beings are free and know love and know health, how can I serve? Right? How can I serve that? And there's that way of like every single moment of our daily life, wherever we are, can be serving that. And then there's going to be those of us that are called to go to the front lines all over.
Mhm,
And it's that piece of, full circle, like the Russian nesting dolls,
mhm.
that there are many, many, many different worlds happening at once in this world.
Yeah.
And so where will we put our attention and how can we use our immense privilege and luxury, clean water, fresh air, safe nervous systems, loving relationships, creative life that we love, wild earth. How can we allow that to then fill our cup so that we can be of more service in the world in whatever ways we're moved? And all
Yeah.
of us, it's unique. I feel like I want to lovingly and humbly claim, like I'm seeing that paradigm of love and unity and wholeness in my daily life all
Yeah.
day long. And when I see and stay up with the news of what's happening in the world, I don't collapse. I don't buy into that. And so
Mhm.
much of the media that we're shown is a extension of the lie of separation because one of the ways to control people from being sovereign is to keep them afraid and overstimulated and distracted with the narrative of separation. So it's
Yeah.
important to be sober. Right? And
Yeah.
I just wanna name that
Mhm.
because by some ears, our whole conversation could be a bunch of, like, Looney Tune, unrealistic, not grounded, but let me tell you, I am extremely grounded. I'm
Mhm.
grounded in a consciousness that is beyond the limited human mind,
Yeah.
and that is one of the greatest gifts and legacies I can give to my human family. And am I seeing the fruits of that right now? Absolutely.
Mm.
And so I want to celebrate you in the ways that I know you are experiencing the juicy fruits of your practices and seeing this life that you've just described. And yeah, and what a wild life.
Yeah.
Mhm. Like what is happening anyway, you know? Can we like become really good surfers?
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that. I think back to light and our awareness, attention, and how much like there's many wars happening all at once. There's the spiritual war that is taking our attention, wanting our attention, turning it into fear, turning it in, that there's so the hope I have too is with all this support coming in all these places, like that through the natural world, through the evolution of Gaia herself too, like trusting that
Mhm.
there is something so much bigger that we are a part of. And that we are all given light when we are born and before, probably, I don't know. It's the mystery, but this light of our attention where we're focusing at how I'm seeing things. So, right, like we can look at the news, we can look at the narratives that are being streamlined everywhere, and then notice. Like I even just noticed myself recently this week. Like, okay, now I'm looking at a lot of this mainstream narrative that's happening on the news and spelunking into the shadows. I want to see. I don't want to turn a blind eye. And
Mhm.
do I have the practices to come back from that and noticing what's happening in my body as I'm seeing these things and reading these things
Yes, that
to
awareness,
transmute them?
observation.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
And then back to like our not turning away. And then the light that we were bringing, like last night, preparing for this conversation with you, I was just lying in bed and feeling into love based paradigm, just even that possibility in that liminal space while falling asleep. And that level of energy and light that I then was connecting with that is so powerful, that is beyond just me, but that is the we. And that I'm
and
just so delighted for. So thank you for that reminder. Like, no, it can be in this lifetime. We are
mhm,
seeing the changes.
mm,
And
mm,
then maybe it's not being broadcast in the news, but it's being broadcast energetically. And that's where we have choice.
yes, yes, and energy speaks louder than words, and the power of love is stronger than the love of power. Ashe. I think it was Joseph Campbell who said, we take one step towards the gods, and they take 10 steps running towards us, right? And namaste, like, and here we are one. We are one, and making a choice, like, this is a choice point. This
Mhm.
eclipse, the eclipse window, eclipses are always opportunities to make that quantum leap. And one of the biggest shifts that I can vouch for from my own experience is making a choice. The schism is over. The war is over. I will not be at war in myself.
Hmm.
Whether it's my inner child and my inner critic, or the different parts of me, the conditioning, like there's so many layers, and whether we go deeply inside or we meet it out in the world, we're going to keep meeting what is ours to meet, and making a decision, a choice. No more, no more war, no more fight. Drop the fight. No
Hmm.
part of me will be at schism. Only love lives here. Only love lives here. And then every way that there's still an unconscious thread that I'm like, oh, but not there, is going to show up in my life. It's like our life is the path, and it brings us everything we need. So here we are in it. Why not fully savor it and give ourselves to it and surrender to what if it could be even better than the best we can imagine for humanity? What if in that blessing of the unknown, we have to surrender and let go of any ideas and pictures of what we think it could look like, because that's more of the known. The quantum is always, it's unexpected, and it is unpredictable, and it is something that has not yet happened. And so this is the quality of invitation that I have
Hmm.
for myself and for anyone who wants to play with me. Okay, let's have a love affair. That's what I want to do on planet Earth.
It's happening. Wow. That's so beautiful.
And
And if just before we come into our blessing for the listeners, I mean, I feel like this entire conversation has been a blessing. If there's anything that's coming up with this shift in the paradigm, like what's feeling next for you in your life?
mm, mm, now, I think is the only true way I can answer that. Just now, how can I? relax into this present moment and everyone that follows, and trust the guidance, a life lived from deeper divine relaxation and
Mm,
surrender. And surrender, no playfulness. Playfulness is underrated and often forgotten in the world of adulting. Laughter, yeah, showing up as life moves through me, to
mm,
letting go of the reins and just letting life move me.
mm,
That's what's now.
mm,
Forever now.
mm. I just got the sweetest image of you jumping into the frog pond when there's all these frogs and like playing and laughing with
Yes,
your
yes.
frog relatives.
Kiss every single one of them.
Gosh, so amazing.
Mhm.
Well, I'm so grateful that we had this time here in this way. And um, just
Thank
if
you.
there's anything else before the closing blessing, if you want to share in this
Yeah,
moment.
before the closing blessing, I want to reflect to you what a joy it is to be with you, what an emanation of love and wisdom and curiosity and magic you are, and the
Mm,
unique ways that you are a voice and a heart for all the things that move you is such a gift. And I'm so
mm,
delighted. Every conversation we have is an elevated experience, and also deeply grounding those frequencies into my lived life in a way that they keep giving. Thank you.
mm. My heart is feeling so full. I'm so grateful to know you, beautiful sister.
Thank you, Rhea.
I was going to just say thank you, Rhea, for connecting us. Okay. So, for the listeners, this is a blessing just to wrap up this beautiful conversation. May we remember in every moment we have a choice of where we place the light of our awareness.
Mm. May we remember that our awareness and our loving attention is a superpower.
Mm. Thank you so much, beautiful friend, sister,
Oh,
co conspirator of creativity and
such a
love.
treat. Oh, I wish you were here and we go romp to the frog pond in the sunshine.
Me too. That's the next superpower is teleportation.
Yes.
Thank
Hmm.
you.
Thank you, love.